Welcome to the View of God series. In this series, we'll be discussing our views of God and our relationships with God. This series was born from a lot of different conversations over the years with a couple of my good friends. I believe our view of God is a very basic Christian foundation that is very helpful in the way we live our Christian life. We'll be looking at questions like, what can or does damage our view of God? And how can we come to a place where we have the correct view of God? I hope you were challenged and encouraged by this series. Today, we'll be answering the question, why is our view of God so important?
Well, I think it's important because it's going to change the way how we feel about God and the world, and also how we act in response to that.
The reason why it's so important to have the right view of God is so that you'll stand strong when the storm hits.
I think it's important for a few different reasons. Number one, when we think about what does God really want with us, He truly wants a relationship. One of the most important things is to be able to understand and to know that person. So our view of who that person is very important, and specifically so with who God is.
Over my life, there's been 4 different ways that I've viewed God that have kind of changed my perspective and battled for control within my mind. First is fear, and I'm not talking about proper fear of the Lord. I'm talking about terror, deep-seated terror that I'm going to go to hell because God's arbitrarily going to punish me, or that because I've done something that's unforgivable, now God's not going to show His mercy to me.
We live in a fallen world, and our world is riddled with sin and suffering. And if we don't have the right view of God, then our identity will be in that suffering and that pain, and not in the knowledge and understanding of God's love. And so when you look at the big picture, you realize that God loved us so much that He sent His Son. And so that Son part I used to struggle with, thinking, why did He send His Son instead of Himself? Well, here's the thing. That's the wrong view of God. God Himself, He came and humbled Himself and died in our place.
Another way that I've had a wrong perspective of God is by thinking of God as my own personal genie. He's only there to bless my life, to give me health, to heal my sicknesses, heal my suffering, and if I sin a little bit, He turns a blind eye to it, and He's not too offended by it.
With God, sometimes we could have the view of He's this all-powerful, all-knowing, judgmental, angry, wrathful God. And the thing is that's not very accurate, and it would skew our relationship with Him and cause us to be cold and distant.
And the third view I've had that I've probably struggled with the most is the view that God is unjust. Why is He letting evil happen in the world? Why isn't He punishing it? Why is He letting suffering happen to me?
And in suffering has the ability to perhaps lie to us and tell us that God doesn't love us. But the reality is, He does love us. He wants fellowship with us. He wants to give us strength and courage and peace in the midst of a trial and a storm.
But all 3 of these views are an improper view of God. And the only way to get a proper view of God is to go back to the Bible, where God tells us who He is.
So the reason why Scripture is important is just because we want to have that best relationship with who God is. And it's important to God, and so therefore it's important to us.
When we finally come to God like a humble child who's messed up and done something wrong, coming to his parent, knowing that the parent has the right to punish him, but also knowing that the parent loves him. That's what our relationship with God and our view of God is supposed to be like. And when that relationship with Jesus grows, we want to get to know Him more and more, and it changes everything.